If we get everybody to take their seats. If you haven't already, we do have water in the back, so feel free to help yourselves and grab some water. I think there's some snacks over there as well. So welcome to the RCMP Town Hall here today. We've combined the town and the county together. Obviously, we have a lot of county residents that live around the town of Edson, so thank you for showing up here today, and we'll be taking questions a little bit later. I would like to welcome our Staff Sergeant Christian Delisle. He's going to present on the latest crime stats and talk about the policing priorities for the town of Edson and Yolo County. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. I'm Christian Delisle. I'm the detachment commander here in Edson. Thank you for coming. So tonight it's our town hall for our policing priorities for the upcoming fiscal year. So our years are from April 1st to March 31st. So our new priorities need to be set for our new year. And I'm here to talk with you about what you would like to see your police service do in your community. We're going to talk a little bit about current stats, some numbers on our response times and whatnot, and from there we can certainly have a discussion on what you would like to see for priorities. I have with me my operation officer, Sergeant Luke Milbury. He will be there to answer questions as well. Luke has been the operations sergeant since May. And just promoted. He's been in Edson for about 3.5, 4 years, I believe.
4.5 years.
4.5. So he's well known in the area. Got a promotion and is now in charge of our operations. Before we start, I would like to let everybody know we have the mayor from the county here with us, Mayor Wade Williams, as well as the mayor of the town of Edson, Kevin Zahara. So if you have any questions, we also have some counselors as well. For both councils. So if you have any questions for mayor or councils afterwards or during the presentation, please feel free to ask them. They were more than willing, or they let me know they were more than willing to answer any of the questions that you have. Just show of hands, how many are from the county? I recognize a lot of people here, but how many are from the county? Okay, that's good. And how many are from the town of Edson? Okay, that's about 50-50, so that's good. So before I continue, I want to let Julie here, who's our president for the COP, Citizens on Patrol, say a few words. We work hand in hand with COP. Every time I do a town hall, I always like to give her a minute or two to say about what they do and what kind of activities and service that they provide to the community, because I think that they're doing great work. So Julie, if you want to come front and introduce yourself and say hi and talk a little bit about COP.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Julie van der Broek, as this gentleman said. I've been president of Citizens on Patrol for a few years. I don't remember much of anything. But we're trying to get people to be vigilant with their properties. My main thing is while we're on patrol, we notice who has motion detector lights and who doesn't, because that's a great deterrent. That's one of our favorite things. We try to patrol twice a week at least. We do have some patrols that go out during the week. And we have about 15 members right now, always looking for more. You can apply at the detachment and just ask the nice people at the front desk. They'll give you an application, trying to change my language here. An application, they'll do a criminal check, and they'll let us know whether the person is good fit for us or not. We're just asking, keep an eye on your neighbors. If you see something that's strange, people coming and going, just make some notes. You see people, note what they're wearing, what they're driving, whatever. Part of being a good neighbor is just to keep an eye on other people's stuff as well. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much, Julie. A few things that we're doing with COP, for example, when we have complaints of areas that people are speeding, we have a radar gun that you can use, and they go get some statistics for us and then bring us back, so then we can adjust our enforcement accordingly. We have people sign up for the CEPTED course?
Yes, one.
Perfect. So we are working into having COP train and what we call CEPTED, so crime prevention through environmental design. So we will have in-house, in our community, people that will be able to go and have a look at your business or your residence and see how we can improve the layout to reduce the possibility of being victimized. So working closely with them, so another service that hopefully soon we'll be able to provide. So anyway, stay tuned. Okay, statistics. So since this is a town hall for the town and the county, I brought obviously statistics for both. The numbers that I have with me tonight are from basically January to December. So it's not our year end, it's not an RCMP year end, but it's basically a year of statistics for the town and a year of statistics for the county. And the reason why I brought this is to kind of start the conversation with this. Basically looking at the numbers that we have, basically based on what the priorities were for this year, where do we go from there? So I'll start with the county. Through the consultation that we did last year, the priorities that we had for the county was crime reduction, community presence, visibility, youth, and squatters in the county. So the current, how it translates into our annual performance plan. So the first priority that we have for this year was policing, community relations, and visibility. The goal was to have about 30 community contact with the population. So through activities, through town halls, through either private sessions or meetings or whatnot, but being involved and either showing the flags or being present during things that would happen in town and whatnot. And if we look at the total so far, so by the end of December 31st, we had 51 done already. So well above what we set for a priority. Then for the crime reduction, for the county, our goal was to reduce theft under $5,000, theft over $5,000, and theft of motor vehicles by 10%. So we are so far on our goal, showing an increase of about 16% in that area. I'll talk about it a little bit more specifically. There's some factors that are playing in there, but we're 16% higher than last year. So our goal was to be 10% lower. We also had a goal to do 1,200 documented proactive patrols in the county and in the town of Edson together. For that, we are so far, as of December 31st, over 400 patrols. So that's down in county. I have specifically them separated on our plans, but overall it's 1,400. And the third one was to have our general investigation section to do 6 proactive drug investigation in both communities together. They were able to do 1. One of the reasons why we don't have more is at one point we were short-staffed. We had to collapse the section. They had to come back and work the floor. But now they're back up into their GIS function, and they have some project on the go. So for the county now, when it comes to youth, we have monthly meetings with schools. We attend schools. We basically not necessarily have an interactions with the youth themselves or having an activity with them, but we at least present in the schools at least once a month to take the pulse of what's going on. And if there's an activity or a presentation we can do, then we will go and engage. And for the squatters in the county, we did do some patrols in some of the areas that we know people will just randomly camp. And the big problem with that sometimes the garbage and stuff like that. So we're trying to enforce some of the bylaws or provincial laws to prevent things like this. So this translates in terms of statistics for the provincial side. So in Edson, so the part of Yellowhead County that the detachment looks after, when we look at crime against persons, we saw a total increase of about 13% when we compare it to last year. So the numbers that we want to take note of, what really bumped the number up is criminal harassment. It was it's an increase of 57%. We went from 7 calls to 11. Criminal harassment, well, it's a bit of a catch-all for when people are getting harassed through emails, through Facebook, or in person, when it's family related. It's a bit of a catch-all. We saw a slight increase in the county during last year. Overall, the property crime, so not just our goal that we have on our performance plan, the overall property crime in the county is higher by 12%. So last year we had a total of 402 calls for service. In 2022, we had a total call of 451 property crime related. The numbers that we want to look at is increase in break and enters, there's an increase in theft of motor vehicles, and arsons. We went like from 2 to 5, so it's like just that is like 150% increase. So I want to talk about those numbers, and it's kind of related to our goals here is, so when I'm talking about arsons here, like we had like a fire like at the Marlboro dump, for example. That's one of them. A vehicle was set on fire. One shop was set on fire, and then we had a house the part of it was set on fire. Break and enters. So the reason why we saw an increase, basically we went from 34 to 64. So when I looked at the 64 break and enters that were reported in the county, 29 of those were related to oil and gas sites. So half of them are related to that industry. Reason for this is, like, the bad guys picked up on the fact that there's a lot of remote locations that could possibly have things where they can steal and resell, or there's metals that they can steal and resell. So they've targeted multiple oil and gas locations, and even some places more than once, and that's why we saw an increase. Other than that, other break and enters that occurred, so the other about 35-ish, it was outside buildings. So we would have like sea cans that would be broken into, garages that would be broken into. Also a lot of recreational vehicles, campers, and some cottages. So that's the average things that are getting broken into in the county. In regards to theft of motor vehicles, so let me get the numbers here. So we went from 40 in 2021 to 58 in 2022. 12 of those were related, again, to the oil and gas industry. So we're talking about vehicles like quads, trucks, things like this that were left on lease sites because the employees were to come back the next day to do some more work and whatnot, instead of, and I totally understand, like bringing the equipment back and forth, losing time, they leave it on site. Well, some criminals picked up on that. They're stealing those vehicles, right? The rest of the thefts, few vehicles were stolen from private property. So, you'll have your vehicle in front driveway and it disappears. We have a few of those. And then few were stolen from campgrounds. So, you go with your family quadding and then you come back, truck is gone. So there was a few of those as well. In terms of possession of stolen property, we also saw a bit of an increase there. I'll give you a number. Possession of stolen property. So in 2021 we had 33, and in 2022 57. So possession of stolen property, what's happening in the county is we have a lot of stolen vehicles that are being dumped in our area. So they steal it somewhere else, they drive around, dump it in the county, and then we get a call about an abandoned vehicle. Turns out it's stolen, so then it creates a file for us as a possession of stolen property in our area. So that's why the number is a little higher, due to the activity that's going on in the county around the oil and gas industry-ish. And the last category that we have is what we call other criminal codes. We saw a decrease of 41% in the county. So calls with offensive weapons, disturbing the peace, and whatnot, we saw a decrease in those. Gives a total crime increase for the whole county of about 5%. That's for the county. Before I move to the town, any questions on the county stats? No? We can always come back if you want. So I'll talk about the same thing, but now for the town of Edson. So basically, for the town of Edson, total persons crime, we saw a decrease of 4%. Big decrease were robberies. We went from 5 to 1, so that's good news. That was 80% decrease. The number that was high a little bit, we have on sexual offenses, we were a little higher. And I was asked, is it because we have more people coming out now, feeling more comfortable to disclose what happened to them, years and years ago? And I kind of look, it's about 50-50. We do get a little bit more victims that are now more comfortable because society has worked to remove the stigma around those type of offenses, and so we have a few that came out. So that increased the number slightly, but it's about a 50-50 when you look at the files that we got. And property crime in Edson, in the town of Edson, we saw a decrease of 17% in 2022. Roughly the numbers, we saw a decrease of 20% for break and enters. Theft of motor vehicle, we saw a decrease of 16%. Damage to property, a decrease of 25%. And overall, it gives us a minus 17% of property crime. And other criminal code, we saw an increase of 63%. So basically what's happening is during COVID, the courthouse was sometimes open, sometimes closed, and court were not issuing warrants when people were not going to court, and we did not have any fail to appears. And then in June, everything reopened up completely, and now those charges were starting to pile up. So yeah, so basically we saw an actual increase because now people were not going to court and were basically now being held accountable for it now that the court system is back on. Total, if we look at 2022 for the town of Edson, compared to last year, it's 0 increase. So it's roughly the same statistic. What's the reason for that? It's because it's our other criminal code, those fail to appears and whatnot, that are causing the number to go up. But overall, if we look at persons and property, we're down in Edson. Any questions for the stats in Edson or the stats in general? Okay, good. And if I look at the annual performance plan for the town of Edson, so the community contact are the same, it's 51 because it's combined county and Edson. The patrols are the same, it's over 1,400, sorry. The goal was the same in crime reduction to reduce theft under and over 5,000 as well as theft of vehicle. We've seen a decrease of 9.5% for 2022. And same thing with our GIS section, those 6 operations, well, only 1 because it's for the county and the town. So those are the statistics and the priorities that we had last year and the result that we're at. So those are not the final results. We still have January, February, and March for us to wrap up, and then we'll have like our basically our year-end report where we have our numbers that we compare from March to April. Other statistic that I want to talk about quickly, the type of calls for service that are taking most of our time. So again, I will be going like county and municipality. So before I do this, in Edson, in 2022, we saw a decrease of 4% of calls for service. Last year it was about 3,600 calls for service. In 2022, we saw 3,400 roughly. So 4% decrease. And in the county, we saw an increase of 4%. In 2021, about 2,100, and in 2022, about 2,200. So 4% decrease, 4% increase. That's roughly how it was divided for 2022. Calls for service. So for the provincial side of the detachment, roughly, if we go by work, what created the most work in the county in general would be motor vehicle collisions, property damage. So we had the numbers of motor vehicle collisions, the times that it takes to attend the scene, investigate and whatnot. It represented about 11% of our workload. And then we go to theft under $5,000, 5% of our workload, other motor vehicle traffic violation, 5%, and then it goes down to 3%. So that's your top 3. For the town of Edson, what was taking the most time for the officers to work on were mental health other activities. So basically all those calls for service that we have when people are in distress. Sometimes it's a 15 minutes conversation with the people and the family at the scene and we're good to go. But the other time, sometimes we have to transport someone to Edmonton to a facility that can, give them the service that they need. So that takes a lot of time. And that represents about 6% of the workload. Then number 2 would be other non-moving traffic violations. So basically infractions of the Traffic Safety Act that are non-moving offenses, 5%. And the third one would be disturbing the peace at 4%. And response time. I I'm asked on a regular basis what our response time and whatnot. So for the province of Alberta, for the RCMP, the average response time for priority 1 and priority 2 call. And those are, I'll explain a little bit what those calls are for. So a priority 1 call would be a life or death calls for service, would be a serious risk of injury, would be an urgent request from another agency. So let's say the county CPOs are dealing with a violent person they just pulled over, that would be a priority 1 call. A weapon call, domestic violence in progress. And a priority number 2 would be a crime in progress of a very short time delay for a disturbance, welfare check on someone, threats, 911 hang up, things like this. Regular requests from other agencies, and traffic offenses. So priority 1, priority 2. So when you look at those type of calls in the county, the average that the local RCMP take to go to a call is 23 minutes, and the provincial average is 21.7 minutes. So we're about a minute over the average, which is, considering the distance that we have to travel, like really good. We're within where we need to be. And if I look at the same thing for the town of Edson, of course the distance are a lot smaller. The provincial average is 13 minutes to respond to a municipal call. In Edson, we're 11.1, so we're a couple of minutes faster. So that's basically it. So those are the numbers that I have for you. While I have the floor, I can certainly talk about a couple of things. First one, it was brought to my attention a few days ago that there's a bit of a rumor in town that there was a home invasion and someone was shot and killed, and I can assure everybody that did not happen. We did have an older gentleman that passed away, confirmed through autopsy that it was natural causes, so there was no home invasion and no one that got shot in town. So if you see that rumor on Facebook, it is not true. And then the other thing I would like to talk about, because it's been on the news recently, it's the body cam. The government of Alberta just basically mentioned that they would like to mandate all the police services to have body cam. This is something that the RCMP has been working on for a little while. We've been advising all our municipal partners that this is coming, to prepare some expenses related to that, as to we want to introduce body cam. There was few detachment that they were supposed to go online with it. Luke, correct me, but was it March 1st or something like that? And they just had to be delayed for, there's a lot of logistic behind this, and to be quite honest, the number one logistic issue is storage. It records so much information and you need to store it and keep it for a certain amount of time, and that's what we need to figure out. But the RCMP was already working, and this is already in play. We were going to have them, with or without the province mandating this, and police opinion and even personal opinion, I think it's a good thing. One, we have nothing to hide. Second, everybody films us all the time. Phones are out and we get recorded all the time, so I want my version of what happened. I want my copy, right? So it's, at the end of the day, it just makes sense. So anyway, these are the only two things I want to talk about. Now, I will leave the floor to you guys. Any question, comment, any subject you would like to discuss. But what I would like to find out too is what would be some of the priorities you would like to see for the upcoming year that you would like your RCMP to work on. And if you have any questions for Luke, absolutely, you will gladly answer them. Yeah. Any questions or any comments or anything you would like to talk about? Yes.
Well, speaking of the body cams,
Yes.
it makes perfect sense because you've got no interruptions between the following of the vehicle, say for instance the traffic enforcement, and the end of the session with the driver, whereas they would usually only start recording when it benefited them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And all of this is disclosable in court. Like, so every time we record something, audio, video, we have to disclose it in court if there's a case going to court. And so we're already filming a lot of things. Like, we have the cameras in the car that as soon as you turn the emergency lights on, the camera goes on, right? We have the cameras in our cell area. And I remember, like you're talking like 20 years ago, I remember when they came up with those, the guys were like, oh yeah, Big Brother, they gotta watch us. And you know what, I'll be honest with you, it saves us from lawsuits and issues more than it causes any problem. If a member wants to abuse his power and beat up someone in cells, I want that on video because he needs to do his job. We're not there to beat up people, right? But on the same token too, if you want to pretend that I, broke your arm in cells, well, let's have a look at the video because I did not touch you. So then it eliminates all those lawsuits and false claims, right? So why would we not have it on ourselves? May as well. I think it'll be a great tool down the road. So, yeah.
Yes.
Actually, your body cams now, is that transmitting to the main, like to someone else? Let's say there's an officer in distress whose body camera is on. Does that transmit to somewhere else? So someone could be viewing it in case the officer needs help?
So, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's just a recording device. Unless, Luke, you know more, I think it's just a recording device. It gets downloaded at the end of the shift. I don't think it'll be linked to like an emergency system, and I don't believe there'll be someone monitoring all the cameras like that are out in the field. I don't think so, no.
So then when you follow up that, the ones you have in your cars, are those linked to somewhere else?
No.
Okay,
They
so
just record, yeah.
it just simply records.
Correct.
So you can look at it. Okay.
Correct. So it'll probably be the same system. Yeah, yeah.
I just had a couple of things that I wanted to add, from the county. Well, first off, I was a little disappointed that there wasn't more people here because we get a lot of calls all the time about crime in the county and also from the town of Edson. I hear it all from both sections. So I was really hoping this would be a little bit more well attended, but it is what it is. I just wanted to touch a little bit on our county peace officers. Our county peace officers, so we have 8 when we're fully staffed. Right now we're not quite fully staffed. So, and they're on shift work as well. But our county peace officers are for bylaws, complaints, traffic violations, those types of things. Anything that is non-criminal. If it becomes criminal or they get into a situation like Christian said earlier, then they have to call the RCMP in. So with the county, we got 22,000 square kilometers and we have 8 CPOs out there. So we get a lot of complaints about how come we're not seeing them in our area, and they just can't be everywhere at the same time as these folks can't either. So we're out there working together. We're trying to work with the RCMP. There's lots of communication back and forth. I think we have a really good working relationship.
Yeah.
But we need people reporting things as they are happening, and that is so critical.
Yeah.
Reporting is the number one. We need the reports coming in.
I agree, and as I mentioned at the council meeting there, the increase in the county calls for service, I take this as a positive. Obviously, people are more willing to call us. Well, I hope so. That means that we're doing our job, that we're making it clear that, hey, we're there for you guys, we're approachable, and I would like that to continue. Because I know sometimes people are hesitant, they wonder if they should call the police or not. If you're in that situation, then call. And if at the end of the day, we don't need to attend, so be it, but then you may as well be safe than sorry. So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's the same with our 911 dispatch. Every call is recorded, every call is prioritized, and every call is looked into. So if people are thinking that their calls are not being listened to, I can assure you they are being listened to. Some of them are prioritized. The high priorities are dealt with immediately. And as they go down the priority list, it might take a day or 2 or 3. But
Yeah,
every call is recorded, files are started, and it's critical that people make those calls.
Yeah, thank you very much. I agree. I totally agree. Yes. Yes.
I was going to say, it's really reassuring that you're listening to us and you're trying to do your best with limited resources. But it's very clear that the powers that be don't think it's the same priority as you do. Obviously, because we definitely need more staff. My main question is, who do you serve? We know that you have an oath to the Queen. Of course, the Queen's gone, and now there's actually the International Tribunal has APB basically out on the King. So there's been crimes against humanity that we need to be aware of. But the powers that be, Justin Trudeau has just put a ban on handguns. So there's been a lot of interference in our lives with powers that be. And so they're gonna need enforcers. So we need to know that you're with the people. Obviously you have families and we all need to stand united. Right now, Bank Swiss just went under. So the Swiss bank just went under. There's banks going in the States like crazy, regional banks, major banks. I think we're into an economic crash. And whether we want to see it or not, we have to keep our eyes on what's going on in the States because that directly impacts us. So I want to be reassured that we're not going to be enforcers of the wrong laws. We're into maritime law here or a contract law. There is such a thing as common law. And that's what the world abides by in international law. So we have to pick sides and we have to stand up together because you're not going to be able to manage this. If we have a bank closure or we have grocery store closures or things like that, people are going to get desperate. So we have to have some plan of action, and it's happening. Whether we want to deny it or not, it's happening. So yeah, I'm just wondering if we could work together to come up with a plan of action. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So to answer your question, who do I serve? Very simple. I serve you. I serve the person next to you. I serve the resident of the community. And my service is to make sure that our community is striving within the laws and rules that are decided by elected officials. And that's basically what it is. And I had that conversation with some friends not long ago. I don't get any emails from the federal government telling me like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. I get my directions and I get my priority from meetings like this with the population, from the local elected officials, and based on that, we decide what we're doing. That's basically how it works. The rare times that we get calls saying, hey, we need you to go and do a function somewhere else would be when we have like a visit from the Pope, for example. Now we need police officers from pretty much everywhere to provide security and whatnot. Same thing when we have like big events that require like a bigger security. That would be the only time where we would be mandated to probably assist in that event. If not, we serve you. That's basically it. And yes, there's a lot of things changing in the world. We have a war in Ukraine. We have like interest rate going up and this and that. Yeah, this brings some challenges. This brings some challenges to police services, absolutely. We're there to work with you to try to stay within those boundaries and rules that we've all set as a community, as a society, and try to make it as easy as possible for everybody. So we'll have to deal with incidents as they happen, but certainly working with you, we're there for that. Yes.
So do you have already a plan of action as if this is going to happen fairly soon because it's happening like it's happening. There's natural disasters. Yeah, we have to have safe places to go.
So I can tell you the RCMP has what we call emergency plans and business continuation plans. So we have, like, it's a binder about that thick. Basically, not every possible situation, but some sort of a basic plan for, let's say there's a major flooding in Edson. Let's say there's a major power, outage in Edson. So how are we going to be operating? So for example, do we need to move our operation to a different building, a different location, and whatnot? So we have those plans in place, but every situation is fluid. Those are guidelines. So yes, we have those. Now, when I said we'll have to deal with situations as they present themselves, it's because sometimes, like, you might have a flooding, but it might be just a section of town, for example, or a section of the county where, like, we don't need to move our operations and we can work locally. So maybe the plan is not as complicated as it needs to be, or explained in that binder. I don't know if it makes sense, but so we are prepared for all those situations. Yes, and I'll be honest with you, the group of people that I'm working with, my members of the detachment, I have full confidence on their capability. They're doing great work, the stats are showing, so I think you're well looked after. Yes?
The 3,400, I think it was, that you said calls to service, are those all the calls, or is it just calls that result in a police file number?
So,
Is that just everything?
pretty much any call to the police creates a file. There'll be the odd time where like it's really not a police matter, but our dispatchers are mandated, like if you call the police, we'll create a file. So yes, you can say it's like 99.99% a call to the police. Does it always result into a criminal offense? No, right? So absolutely not. Any other question? Yes.
Thank you, Christian, for doing this tonight. My question is in regards to body counts. So if the province is mandating body counts, are they also providing funding towards these body counts?
Good question. And I don't have the answer to that.
I think we all know the question, the answer.
Yes, I don't know, and I think that was a point that was raised in the news, is like, okay, like, will there be funding for this? I know the RCMP, when they were approaching them, our municipal partners, that's something that will be added to their policing expenses, yes. Now for the county, which is paid by the province, technically if we get body cam, that's something that the province will have to pay, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I should just mention that we do pay for some officers.
Yes, oh yeah, you do, yeah, correct, yes, through the agreement with the town, yes. But technically, the 6 provincial officers that I have at the detachment, they are paid by the province. Does it make sense? Yeah, I can certainly explain it better to you.
No,
I want you to explain.
Okay, so basically Edson is one police building, but there's technically 2 detachments inside the building, and that's why the stats are separated. So you have what we call the municipal detachment. So these are the 17 police officers paid by the town of Edson. So Edson Council decide we want 17 police officers to police our town. Now the other 6 are paid by the province of Alberta, and they're the one deciding how many we're getting.
Is that the difference between traffic and?
No.
Okay.
Traffic, it's another section separate completely, and that is us as well. The traffic section we have here is paid by the province, correct? But the 6 members that I have at my detachment that are responding to calls for service are paid by the province.
Do they all respond to the same calls and all that? It's just funded differently?
Correct. So, yes, correct. So the way it works in Edson, we have what we call a post system. So basically, when a call comes in, who's the next guy available, right? We don't even schedule like, okay, we need 1 county and 2 town. It's like we have everybody in one pot, and we make sure we have our minimums every day. And then they just answer calls wherever they come from. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I'll just clarify too, so I think, I know the county is paying the province for,
oh, that's right.
for policing.
Oh, that's
But you know
right.
what? I wasn't going to correct you. But yeah.
No, but they changed that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're now paying.
I believe we pay for about 6.
You're paying for a portion of the policing cost.
Correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah, so just a couple years ago, the province changed the rules. So the county pays the province some money, and that money goes back towards
Yes,
for those
yes.
provincial members. The town of Edson offsets some of our operational costs with the RCMP through the revenue sharing agreement for the town of Edson. So they help fund some of those other members as well.
Yes, my apologies. You're correct. It's just that we have a different system with the town. Like, yes. Okay. No, you're correct. Yep. Any other questions? Yes.
So there was a question online that just asked about the RCMP stepping up and watching stoplights and watching semis run through the red lights.
Yes. So we do. I'll be honest, it is a bit of a challenging situation, and I know exactly what intersection you're talking about. It's probably that new street light on 55th there in 4th Ave. We do get complaints on a regular basis. We go from time to time. The problem is the way, because it's a one-way and the location where we can put police cars, it makes it a little difficult for us to enforce. Not a reason for not going, So thank you to that person. We need to go from time to time, and I've observed it myself in my personal vehicle. Sometimes they just speed right through the red light, and yes, it can cause some dangerous situation there.
If we're gonna go on specific areas, is there any way you guys can, it's right by the station, if you could watch the trucks pulling up to Tim Hortons on the corner of 54th and 2nd, hanging out into the, from either direction, coming westbound, they hang the front end into the intersection or the
Yes.
back end going that way. And it would be, I phoned in multiple times, never seen an RCMP member catch anybody there. And it should be like that easy. It happens several times a day. It's not even just once or twice a day. It's constant. And it's getting worse. Like,
So you're talking they're sticking out to get onto?
no, they're pulling into Tim Hortons and
Oh.
their back end sticks into the intersection.
Oh,
of 54th
yes,
Street on the south side.
yes.
And so you can't get out
Yes.
the corner there. And then they also come, it's no parking all along there, like from half the block, right? It's about no parking. And they'll come and they'll even stick their front end in the intersection in a no parking spot.
Oh, yeah,
And
okay, I see what you're saying.
I've been sideswiped there
Okay.
before from that. And so we called in, but it's like, it's not responded to. But you guys, if you just did a patrol there, like that's easy.
Okay.
And we've mentioned it to them and they just go, oh, we're broken down. Yeah,
No,
sure
no,
you
they're
are.
not.
Like, or whatever, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Please continue calling it in, and then
Okay.
I'll make notes, and we'll make sure the guys are going. Okay? Because yes,
it's like
yeah,
right there, it's that
I know
easy.
exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about. They're blocking. Yeah.
And it's terrible because there's big
Yep.
trucks coming out of
Yep.
the dump, and
Yep.
it's a mess. Somebody's going to get hurt there.
Yeah. No.
If you're looking at something specific, I was.
Yeah. No. I appreciate. No. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Now that we're kind of on so traffic is a bit of a priority, and we get comments about it all the time, and so we will reintroduce our patrols next year, and that's reasonable. First of all, we're great visibility in the community. Sometimes we catch something in the act, but then it's also for traffic. So absolutely, traffic. It always comes up, so it's always something that we have to keep some
I
sort
know
of
the county
priority.
police officers are really doing a good job on their traffic because they nailed me.
Oh, that's good to hear.
They need to be on patrolling further from town.
You said it to my kitchen.
Nope.
So, but in terms of priority, anything else you would like to see? And let's be realistic, let's be real here, the crime dynamic in Edson does not change year after year, right? It's not like 1 year you have a break and enter problem, and then the year after it's graffitis. It's always a same pattern. So our plans year after years are fairly similar. Looking at the stats after town hall that I did with the seniors and the two councils and whatnot, I think our crime prevention and gearing all this towards property crime would be again a good thing for this year. But hearing from you, is there something else that you would like us to focus on, or is there something in regards to property crime, a specific thing in particular that you would like us to focus on, or?
I'd like you to double down on your property crime. I know that's cost everybody in this community the most.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No. And thank you. And then you're kind of reinforcing what I'm thinking is we just need to tackle this as much as we can. And I know in the county we have this oil and gas lease sites. I'll call it a problem because it's a problem, unfortunately. And we're working with the industry, and they are as well trying to do their best. They're changing some of the material they're using for their cabling and stuff, and some are getting better at back in the days you could leave the quads there and they would be there 3 days after to continue work. Now they load them off and unload them, and it is what it is. So we're working with them. Luke has regular meetings with some of their security employees and whatnot. We have that new position, crime reduction unit. Basically, it's one guy who is not mandated to answer calls for radio. He'll back up the guys, but basically his job is to go after these guys that that are driving the county and stealing the metal, that are coming back into town and stealing from cars or stealing cars. So we are trying different approaches to kind of have a finger on everything that's happening. But it's tough. I won't lie. It's a challenge. We're so far having a good impact on what's going on, and we would like to maintain that. So yeah, property crime, absolutely. Yes.
And the crime reduction, he's doing an awesome job. We see him out there
Yes.
a lot.
Yes.
But I also want to reiterate something you said about calling in, because what's happening is, I still see it on Facebook every once in a while. Somebody will say, oh, you know, I'm not gonna, they post something and then immediately somebody's asking, did you call the RCMP? No, they don't do nothing. Well, the problem is, if somebody doesn't call in and let you know there's a problem, you don't know there's a problem because you don't read minds yet.
I'm trying hard, it's not working.
It's a really tough,
And the minimum that it will do, it will give us some ideas of where crime is happening, and it'll be a lot more strategic in what we're doing.
So if that is the case, and people aren't phoning in, do you think it's because I phone in, I mean, we've phoned in hundreds of times, probably thousands of times over and you know, you just never know if anything happens, and so you think you're not doing anything, but you are. Like maybe a phone call from a member. I got a phone call here not so long ago. I phoned in, and the member phoned me back and told me what they did.
Okay, perfect.
We did attend, we did X, Y, and Z,
Perfect.
and that made me feel a lot better than just it gets thrown up, and it's just like, well, did they go? Didn't they go? Did the guy get arrested? Am I safe to go outside? Did they get my power saw back? Like whatever. And you never hear back, and it's like, so maybe that is, for sure it was a frustration, or has been in the past frustration for us.
Thank you. We are supposed to call back everybody.
I appreciated that member called me back because I knew that like, okay, well, something happened. At least nobody was arrested, but at least something happened.
It's a very important step in our investigative process.
And that's not been done in the past.
Okay, well, good to know, because that's something that we have to do, and we'll pay attention.
So then you guys can let people know that you're doing something.
Yes, absolutely.
It's going to be beneficial for you too.
Absolutely, no, thank you. That's a good point. There was a question in the back?
Oh, so you had mentioned that the crime basically the pattern of crime doesn't change.
Yeah.
And in past town halls, you've also mentioned, or actually shown, that the crimes are committed by generally the same people.
Correct.
Who are just released again.
Correct.
So, and I know that this ultimately doesn't lay at the feet of the RCMP, but if you know the same thing is going to happen, then how do we help that, or how do you help that? Like if they're just going to, I mean, there was 8 separate incidents where this person was arrested and then released on their own.
There was just one with 39 of count.
36,
39 or 36.
Yeah,
like
I just made it. 36. Yes. So.
And they finally are holding her or him, I guess.
Excellent. Yeah,
39 times. That's all it took.
Keep phoning
her. So yes, keep phoning in. That's why we work with Citizens on Patrol. You know, it's a different tool that we have to try to target and address some of the situations. That's why we have a general investigation section. That's why we have a crew section, to try to kind of, address that problem from different angle. And yes, you would say like, well, it's the same people, they do the same thing, should be easy catch. Well, they also know a little bit what they're doing. They have some tricks. They also know how we work, so they know how to counter, act what we're doing. So it's that balance, right? And all we can do is to catch them, right? And then after that, we bring them to in front of the justice, and then it's out of our hands, right? Yes, I know what you're saying.
I was going to say we had the same situation, so.
Yeah, so yes, there's some frustrations where we're catching the same person over and over and over, and it's just a revolving door. We're not even done the paperwork, and they've committed another crime. I had a conversation today, actually, with MLA Martin Long, and he is working with some of his coworkers on talking to the government to be able to have that change. So it's being recognized. Those laws are at the federal level. Basically, our criminal. So the criminal laws are kind of set at the federal level, if you want, and then justice is a provincial jurisdiction. So, those two levels of governments, they have to talk to each other, and it is a challenge because we end up chasing the same people over and over.
I just want to add a little bit to that. You were saying you were talking to MLA Long, and they're working on it. Also, at the Rural Municipalities of Alberta, which we're attending again next week, a conference in Edmonton, the Rural Municipalities of Alberta have been working on this for a long, long time, working with the government, trying to push exactly that, to be able to keep these people behind bars longer. And
What's the outcome, like what are they?
the outcome is you got a provincial government dealing with a federal government.
Yeah.
These are federal government rules and regulations. And I'm not going to lie at all. The province and the feds don't work that well together. We need the feds to step it up.
That's a nice way to say it.
Well, how else can I say it?
Actually, I was
I
gonna
work
say
well with you guys.
the federalists are on the tribunal, international tribunal, so hopefully they'll be looked after.
But and I believe that the AM is probably as well pushing that every single meeting. I know that we are, and there's more crime prevention stuff coming up in the RMA, which is the following, like next week. So
Yeah, Alberta Munis is the same thing. It's something that's talked about a lot in our conferences, and all the premiers, you've probably seen this, and the territorial leaders have sent a letter to the federal government saying we need bail reform in this country. I forget what the bill is. It's C11.
75? C75?
Yeah.
Don't quote me, but I think it's C75.
Yeah, it was introduced a couple years ago, and let's face it, bail before was bad enough as it was, and then they made it even easier for criminals to get off. So I know there was an emergency meeting, I think, last week, and hopefully we'll see some results from that. We see that here all the time. It's always the same people doing the same things. And it's, the last town hall, or it was actually in Marlborough we heard from residents in Marlborough saying, hey, we have a problem at our dump. People are accessing it, stealing stuff, causing a lot of problems. And, I'm a member of Citizens on Patrol. That Friday we went down there, and guess what? We found somebody stealing stuff. They were out on warrants. Members attended. They got arrested. So, once again, that's one of the critical pieces. If you're calling the RCMP, letting them know what's going on, sometimes they'll pull that vehicle over and that person's out on warrants. And that might be the time they actually get remanded into custody. Your news release just yesterday about the guy with the 36 charges.
Yes.
That was the crime reduction unit just pulling a vehicle over, spidey senses went off, and all of a sudden we have this guy off the streets. And the great thing about that is he didn't have an opportunity to do crime in the community. He didn't have an opportunity to defraud people because he was picked up before he even caused a problem, and because he had so many warrants out for his arrest, he got remanded. So I think that Luke at council a couple weeks ago, you mentioned that you're having a lot of success with local prosecutors getting people remanded in custody. So I think we are starting to see a little bit of improvement, but we need to keep up that pressure.
We're sure doing our part, as best as we can. And it's a big machine. The judicial system's a big machine, so just have to keep moving forward.
If there is a specific problem area like what Kevin's saying about the Marlborough dump or something like that, how do we get that information to the members without, like, do you just call into the front desk, say, look, I've witnessed 15 people breaking into the different dump or whatever, and then would you guys patrol it, or how do you go about getting that? It's not really a complaint, but you like some patrol there or something?
On a regular basis, we will have people calling, hey, we've seen some suspicious activity there. Like me or Luke, get on the computer, hey guys, we got this information, and apparently there's something happening there. And then if we have, like, it's a black truck, or if we have like a license plate, or if we know sometimes a person, like all that information is passed along. Long ago, like not that long ago, an example at the parking lot, Spray Park here in town, we got a concerned citizen that contacted the mayor contacted us. It took the same day we sent a message to all the members. Our members were out there and right away addressing the issue, and lately I haven't heard anything. So, yes, we pass the information for sure. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say in our area we have the same scenario, so we formed a group. So, they weren't harassed by one person, they were harassed by the whole neighborhood, and we kept watch.
Yep.
And then the police were there regularly to harass them too. So they moved out of the neighborhood just to create problems. We love to do the same thing. So, but it means working together. We have to be united in all these situations. We have to work together, because if we don't work together,
like Christian said earlier, if we can get them to move to the mountains or something, that'd be great.
Yeah. And to your comment, every emails we got from your group, they were forwarded to the members, like every single one of them. So they knew what was going on. They knew what were your concerns, and so yeah, it's yeah, absolutely.
And just to go on your point, when we go to gather our gear to start our patrols, we are also given bolos be on lookout for. So we're given ideas and areas that, excuse me, need to be or could be watched. And because we're in our own vehicles, nobody really knows what our vehicle looks like. So when we're out and about, we can see things maybe that a marked police officer won't be able to observe.
So you don't concentrate specifically on like property crime or traffic, you're doing whatever, if there's something that comes across you kind of.
We're looking for sketchy people, sketchy ideas.
Pretty sure
people
Brian
that-
called us in a couple times. So I go to their meeting every month and we talk about like their past patrols and what to look for and whatnot. And to be quite honest, basically what they're doing is that basic policing. You drive around and something just doesn't look right here. And boom, we have them, and then they just look a little bit more, and then if it really doesn't look good, then they call us, right? So I just want to mention something. We're talking about priorities. Nobody said it, but it's obvious. Like it's this cooperation with the community that I hear here. Let's all work together. This is what's really resounding out of this, and we will continue to do this. I want to say that we are really striving at doing that, and that we did that in 2022. Like we're a press release, attending meetings, and working with COPs. But obviously, what I'm hearing is that you guys would like us to continue that, and even like doing more if we can. So I'm making notes, that's for sure.
You've noticed a lot since you've been at Bell. Thank you for that. You've been doing a really good job on that.
Thank you very much.
It's been a huge difference.
Yeah, and you've come out to talk to us, and
Yes.
you took the time to do that, and we really appreciate that.
No,
It
thank
was
you.
a good crowd out there too. So
Yes.
we really appreciate that.
And they were really good and dynamic meetings, and me and Luke were there, and good conversations. So yeah, no, absolutely. Yep. Yes.
We have a few questions on Facebook. This one ties in. When and where is the next town hall meeting going to be?
I don't have a date yet, so they want us to do a minimum of 2 a year. I have personally done way more than that, so I don't know yet. But in the summer it's always good to have one around, I want to say June, July, just to say, hey, so how are we doing and whatnot. So I can see that happening around that time.
Okay. Does the RCMP regularly patrol by the pods by the recycle center?
So the short answer would be yes. We patrol everywhere. We know that it's a place that we have to keep an eye on. I would not be able to tell you the frequency and whatnot, but yeah, it's an area that we go to, absolutely.
And who do we contact for watch around Miller Lake and south of the highway?
Who you contact to walk, like us, like that's our area. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Any other questions? Yes.
How do you so one of the priorities from last year that was these squatters.
Yeah.
So is that not a county peace officer thing?
So
is that
both.
out with
yes, exactly. It's working in conjunction. So they've noticed that some
so if
issues.
you call the county and they need help, they'll call you, or does it matter
Vice
who you
versa.
call, or whichever way?
It was more for us to be aware and proactive patrols, right? Like
Okay.
look for them and look for what's going on, right? So we've done that, and the guys were out, and I'm seeing squatters. Like I've had some reports where guys were talking with some of the hunters, fishermen, and so we're out there and just looking at what people are doing and whatnot. But to keep an eye out for those squatters that are just damaging property, eating garbage and stuff. So. In Edson, we don't have that many. Hinton has a little bit more because they're closer to the
Well, I think in
mountains.
the county's the worst. Like that's why I would ask that.
It's bad in
Yes.
the county in places.
Yes.
So those are not 911 calls. We also have a county complaint line, and it's accessible through the website or call any one of the counselors. They can give it to you. And there again, we encourage people to phone in because when people phone into that county complaint line and make these complaints, a file is started. And then that file is continued on with every call that comes in. So these calls are critical, both for the RCMP and also for the county. So we can start tracking this stuff. And the more calls we get, the better. So
Does the town have that same thing?
We do, yeah, we have a peace officer right now, we're trying to hire a second one. And so, like, in particular, the Tim Hortons complaint, our peace officer can deal with that as well, they can do traffic violations.
So is there a special number, or is it
Just call the fire hall, you can call the fire hall.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and we have some squatting also happening in town. Well, I shouldn't say that. They have a good hiding spot in town too, so.
That's right.
It's
It's your neighbors, right across the tracks?
My neighbor's right across the tracks,
Yeah, they're right across the tracks from your.
In the bush?
Oh, yeah,
Edson.
sure, yeah. Sometimes they are my neighbors, that's right.
Oh, I was gonna say, they moved down the UFA room.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that were across the
Yeah, those squatters, those squatters, exactly. Yeah. Christian, I'll just mention too, like, we only have one peace officer, so our ability to respond sometimes is not the greatest, so, I just wanna make sure
Did you say
we.
you're getting funding for another one?
Yeah, we're trying to hire another one right now, so if you wanna apply, if you know anybody interested, we're certainly looking for applications. Parker, do you have a question? No? Luke, anything you would like to say, mention, talk about, or?
I think you pretty much covered everything off.
Yes.
Oh, I have to ask a question of Luke, because he's just like, you know.
Absolutely. He's just dying to answer.
So this question is there any organized crime infiltration in either, you know, the town or the county that you are aware of?
As in, is there any organized crime groups currently
Correct.
working out of Edson or Yellowhead County? At this point, not to my knowledge. Nothing that has been brought to our attention. If you have information, this thing is obviously 100% intel driven, so if you have information, we can definitely have a conversation.
Well, let me see, you know, the Hell's Angel friend, I have. No, I was just kind of curious, because if you look at some of our neighboring municipalities, there are organized crime groups that kind of work out of those municipalities. That's the reason I asked.
Yeah.
On a smaller scale, yes. Some of our neighboring communities do have smaller groups that are, sure, maybe tied to down the road, not directly right into them.
Yes.
But not right now out of Edson. Nothing set in stone that's organized. Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Does the organized crime reach Edson? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, Luke is right. Yeah.
We're a corridor, so obviously yes, it travels through here.
Yes.
But nobody's set up shop or nobody lives here.
That you know of.
That we know of.
I have a pretty good ear and an eye. Not much happens.
Right on.
So,
And we're not inviting them either. Yes.
So there's a lot of people that just like to complain that Edson is this and that and terrible place. Statistically, I would love to be able to say we're no better or worse crime-wise than a lot of other places in the province. Can I do that? Like, can I-
Yes, you can. Yes.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yes, you can.
Because you're right.
I've said it before, I'll say it again, Edson is a very safe community. Like, yes, there's things happening, but there's things happening everywhere, right?
So it's not statistically worse
No,
than any
no.
of our neighbors.
no, we have to be prepared that every time they talk about that, everything is always crime per capita. So if you only have a town of 8,500 and crime is high, obviously it looks like the worst place in Canada.
Do you guys
But
have those statistics?
It's not.
From other
Like
places?
the per
I
capita-
personally don't.
Per capita, I
Like,
could.
so like to compare us to Hinton or to Drayton Valley or something, do you have those?
So I have the same kind of stats, like I have like this for other detachment, yes. It's not a practice to kind of share that, like it's not a secret, you know, like because those other places will share their stats. Is we don't compare detachment to detachment because there's always different dynamics that are affecting some areas. I per capita I could have the stats, I could have those numbers. They don't always necessarily mean something or whatnot. It's like the crime severity index, that something that we'd like to measure and see, like, is there more like serious and violent crime in certain areas than in others? There's some other stats, and I look at other areas just to see what we compare. And I can tell you, our neighbors, we're roughly
About the same.
in this, about the same.
And
yes.
really, that's all. I don't
Yes.
want to shame anyone.
Yes.
Just-
No,
just
yeah,
know
yeah,
that to be able
Yes.
to say with the basis of the fact that we're not any
No,
better or worse
no.
than-
I think
We are
it's
not.
more crime that moves through. I think that it's
like a temporary crime, like it's a drug corridor maybe or something
Yeah.
like that. So it's just transitory or.
There are some of that, but I'll let you finish what you were saying there, like captain and whatnot. But like,
Well, the thing is, it's for like, and back to the capita thing. It's more or less, it's not something you see. I don't ever see the police come over and say anything like that. When you see somebody see crime stats per capita, it's a media thing. So it'll be Edmonton, like the Sun or any of those people will start doing these studies, or the Globe and Mail, or all these places. They'll do their own thing. It's not something you really have Edmonton Police, Calgary Police, RCMP, any of those guys. We don't really talk about their per capita thing. We look at crime trends. And to be honest with you right now, crime trend is obviously property crime, like Brian addressed, right? And the issue we have is I sit on these oil and gas meetings with the emergency measures organizations and the security guys. We have, believe it or not, the vast majority of well sites in Alberta, it seems like, in this area.
Yes.
And it's a very, very,
Very far from town.
remote. It's 100% remote.
yes,
So, and they know that. So between Drayton, Evansburg, and right around here, and majority of them are, obviously all of them are in Yellowhead County and neighboring counties, right? So a lot of the stats are driven off of that. A good thing to be though is that it is oil and gas related, that drives us up, but it's less of the individual homeowners and shop owners are not getting as hit as much because obviously people are getting tired of it and they know that. So.
and that's why I gave them statistics like break and enter. If I just give the number, like, whoa, that many, yes, there's a lot of like little oil sites, shack that got broken into. Well, yeah, it scores as break and enter. It's not someone's house that got broken into. So,
And that's the thing, everything's fenced. So majority of these sites are fenced. If they cut the gate, move a vehicle in, they smash a vehicle through the
break and
gate.
enter.
Break and enter, unfortunately, right? So it drives that stats up. So don't think of a break and enter as being somebody's door kicked in their home,
Yes.
right? Or their shop being broken into. It's any compound.
Any other questions on Facebook friends? Okay. That's good. I really enjoyed this conversation. Absolutely. Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions?
What about drug crime? What is it like in Edson? Is it
So-
increased or?
So, do you have a comment on that one, or
Jane, sorry, what was the question?
Drug
crime?
crime. What is it?
Has it
As in
increased?
drug
Increased?
use, as
Drug
in
use,
drugs.
yeah, like people selling drugs, like drug cartel business, is it increasing or is it just because of mental health as well too?
The thing is we don't have an increase in drug trafficking or people selling drugs. I would say people,
Consuming?
anytime you work, I don't know how to really word this politically correct, but essentially you look at, we're in Alberta, there's money in Alberta, it's driven by oil and gas, it's a transient town, so usually with the changing of population, we do definitely see some influx of use, but as far as actual people selling drugs, no. We don't see anything change in that level.
Yeah, because I think in our area it was a drug-related problem. So,
It was a factor.
They steal in order to.
It was a
get,
factor. So, and
drugs.
drug statistics are interesting that way because, so for example, when there's an assault, there's a victim calling us saying, hey, I was assaulted. Right? When someone, used cocaine, there's no one calling saying, hey, I used cocaine, right? So I don't have a victim calling in, right? So it's a little hard to measure. So sometimes our stats are showing, oh wow, the drug files are up. You have an increase of 150%. It's because we caught more people. And now with that crew position, he's been pretty good. He pinched few people with drugs and actually did a bust not that long ago. Like, that lady had a lot on her. So we see an increase of those stats, but it's because we're pinching more people because now we have someone that has the time, right? So, I've used the expression, it's a victimless crime. It's bad because there's victims of drugs, but we don't have a victim calling us, right? So that's the difference. And sometimes the stats are skewed that way. And it's hard for us to say, like, do we have an increase in usage? Well, it's like we have an increase on good pinches. Like that's how we can measure it. Make sense?
Yeah, but how many people have you caught, selling drugs, like drug sellers, like that sort of thing?
Recently, not that many. Not that many. The last year, how many can you say, like, the drug dealers that we caught? I can think of two, just top of my head.
Yeah, well, we just did one not long ago on a trap related to
Yeah,
a traffic
traffic,
stop.
yeah, that's the
She
one I'm
was
thinking about, yeah.
absolutely involved in
Yeah.
selling drugs to some of the locals here in
Yeah.
Edson, absolutely.
Yeah.
We
There
did
was-
one last year on
there's
the
a couple
actual
of-
house and shut the house
couple
down.
of houses that we hit.
So,
Yeah. So, it's like everything. We need to have the grounds. We need to build our cases. They also know what they're doing. They know what to and what not to do. So, there's work on our plate to be able to catch drug dealers. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
I just had a request that the RCMP hang out at the post office corner during noon, and because the speeders who blow through there.
Oh yeah, that stuff. Yes. Yeah. It's new stuff. Well, not new anymore, but the latest stop sign in town. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
What's happening?
No, go ahead. Yeah, I'm listening.
What's happening with that drug house that's kitty corner of 7-Eleven on 52nd? You guys, have you guys been able to do anything with that? The one
Which
that's,
one
they've
is
got
speaking?
stolen quads and stolen bikes to the north.
Oh yeah, I know.
Northwest
Surprisingly, like being here for 4.5 years and watching that house, most of the stuff that's around there is just stuff that's been hauled from the landfill, hauled from the recycling center. The guy,
So what the drug
the
activity?
gentleman that lived, no, to be honest with you, everybody has that stigma on that house. But having been here for 4.5 years and know the gentleman that lives there, yes, obviously some less desirable people maybe visit him. But as soon as we heat him up, he's actually just shuts his doors, locks his doors, changes the locks. He doesn't have a lot of transient people coming from there anymore.
You guys need to work together. Well, they have that motorhome, I think it's gone now, but there was that motorhome they were dealing out of there for a while, for sure. But I think it's gone now, isn't it? Yeah.
We just like the entertainment when he's out vacuuming the street.
Our daughter.
Vacuuming the street. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
It was interesting.
Anything else? Any other questions? I was going to ask Lucy for a question, but she's sleeping, so.
Maybe I'll just mention, Christian, about resourcing and the amount of officers we have here. So we are very fortunate. We have 17 municipal members. We have the 6 provincial general duty members. I just looked at this recently, comparing other communities. Whitecourt has 14 municipal members, and Hinton just reduced down to 17, and they have a larger population than us. So that allows us to do some of these more proactive things. Having a traffic unit here is a big thing for us.
Yes.
Because let's face it, if they're pulling over people on traffic stops and there's lots of red and blue lights flashing, they're not going to want to do crime in the community. So that's, I think, one of the big things about when people complain about getting pulled over and checked and that sort of thing. Having those red and blue lights flashing in neighborhoods and along the highway hopefully encourages them to move along to other communities. So, safety is a very big priority for us as a council. And so with our budgetary deliberations, council said we are going to continue to fund policing at the full level that we have been. And of course, there's been some increased costs recently, but we really want to focus on that proactive, and that crew position, I think, is key to that. So I do want to thank your members and yourself for taking that proactive approach and for hosting events such as this. It's important to get that feedback.
Thank you. And yes, I will echo that comment. I mean, we have great support from the town of Edson Council, all the positions that we have. We are staffed adequately for what we have to deal with. I mean, I always say, we'll take more if you want, but let's be realistic, like there's a cost attached to that. So the numbers of officers that we have right now is the proper number to address the concerns that we have. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if there's no other questions, we'll wrap it up. And okay, well, thank you very much for coming tonight. That was very good. Yeah, no, I enjoyed the conversation. It was good. A lot of good questions and discussions.